Hey, it's my package! And I'm so excited to check it out. Can you guess what this is? Ooh, this is it. No, not the bubble wrap. The package. Finally, I got my set of art books that I ordered today.
Mabuhay! My name is Rema and welcome to my art space, and we're going to talk about this coloring book to see if this works for me and for you. I bought this creative doodle coloring book for adults along with a bunch of coloring books that were meant to be given as gifts to some kids at the church. I wasn't planning to buy a copy for myself, but I thought, why not have my own copy while I'm on an art slump? Yeah, art slump, because I don't know, I don't feel like drawing, but somehow I like to color. This book was actually published by Dreamland Publications. It's a publication house in India, but I couldn't find other information about who designed the doodles inside this book, but I'm hoping they're not stolen. Somehow I believe this book is legit though, because this was distributed by Fontastic International, which is another book company in the Philippines. Looking inside, I see that these doodles were a bit complicated. Yeah, complicated because they have a lot of lines, they have a lot of details and drawings. So at first you might be intimidated, but they look fun to color. You know, I think they're really designed for adults. Counting the pages, I think there are 32 doodles. I hope I'm right. What I'm planning to do is that I would color one page for a day, because I think it would take a lot of time to color each page. Now, I think I don't need to use gesso in protecting each of the page, because behind the page is just a blank space, so I guess it's okay even though the color would bleed through, because what I'm thinking of using here is a gouache paint, or watercolor, and I hope that when it bleeds through, it only bleeds on the page itself. And I'm confident that the thickness of this page is okay for the paint not to bleed beyond through the other pages. I'm going to show you how I paint each of these pages one by one, but I will not go through the whole book in this video and only give you a glimpse of some of the pages and the process on how I paint them, and the conclusion on what I think on this book at the end.
The first page was already complicated because there were a lot of details that should be colored. I wanted it to be as colorful as it can be, so there's also a lot of thinking on what color a leaf or a flower should be while going through the coloring process. I never thought there would be brain exercise while doing this work, and my hand was also tired towards the end. In one sitting, I finished this for 3 hours and 33 minutes. The good news was that the paint did not bleed through the paper. The second picture was a summer-themed doodle. Again, this was a complicated picture and there were too many details to cover. I would do this every end of my working shift, so there's ample time to finish one page. I thought this one's less complicated than the one yesterday, but I sat through this for 3 hours and 43 minutes. That's 10 minutes more than the one yesterday. One negative side to using gouache paint for this was that the paint may cover the black outlines. Thus, I had to redraw these outlines with black paint. One of the recurring themes in this book was the ocean or the sea, so this one is another underwater themed doodle. I tried to find techniques on how to make the work a little bit faster than the previous ones, but still, I finished this one longer. This whole process took me more than 4 hours.
On the fourth day of this coloring book session, I tried a different approach. Instead of using gouache paints, I now used oil pastels. I find it easier to color each of the details of this doodle. But I like it better than crayons because I can easily blend colors, different colors well on a pastel, although it's a bit messier than using paints for me. I used oil pastels this time because I'm checking if it's quicker to finish a work with oil pastels compared to using gouache paints or watercolor in coloring a doodle. And so far so good because I finished this one for like less than 2 hours. Imagine that. I started like about 4:40 p.m. and I ended the work like I think around 6:20 p.m. I don't know if because through oil pastels there's a bigger scope of coloring. I mean, it's not as, nitpicky as using paintbrush on each details. I don't know if that's a factor in finishing this coloring page or this doodle faster than before. Or maybe because this time I was not too detailed when it comes to separating color. I don't know. But the result of the work, I think it's not as satisfactory as the ones that I painted. The distribution of the color on the surface of the drawings were not as even compared to the ones that I painted. I don't know. I just don't like the effect of the oil pastels. Oil pastels is not my medium, by the way. I'm more into watercolor and gouache. So maybe I just need to improve my skill in oil pastel. But on the forefront, this has a quicker time. I'll check again tomorrow if the time would be the same when I use oil pastels again. So let's see.
I tried coloring a more complicated and detailed doodle with oil pastels, and true to my guess, I finished it in a shorter span of time. I was done in only 1 hour and 15 minutes.
For the last 2 days of the activity, I used a different approach. I did not use watercolor or gouache paints again, neither oil pastels, but this time I used brush pens. Yay! Brush pens are kind of like watercolor, but the color is already in these pens, so you don't have to dip them into paint and use them as brush. These brush pens are actually the medium itself for coloring the drawings. I usually use this for calligraphy, but now I've used this for painting the doodles, which is also a good use. But I only have a few brush pens in my collection because I find them kind of expensive, or I'm just simply stingy. The brush pens I used are Kuretake pens and zig pens, so they are of good quality. But as I mentioned, I only have a few colors of these brush pens. That's why I would also use my Stabilo markers. Yes, the Stabilo markers that you would use in marking lines in a book. What I've tested in using brush pens is that whether the work time for painting these or coloring these doodles would have a shorter span. In the first day, I finished it in about 1.5 hours. So, not bad. But on the second day, I did it on a more complicated and complex drawing. So I was checking whether that 1.5 hour would still stand, but this time I finished it for about or almost 2 hours. It shows that the work span for each coloring does not only depend on the medium, but it also really depends on the complexity of the drawing. Okay, so I'm done. Well, not really done because I still have a lot to color on. But somehow, I finished quite a lot in this activity book. If you're asking why I did not use colored pencils, it's because I don't have colored pencils in the house. I think this is really too complicated for me. Well, not really complicated. You just have to work a lot to color everything in a page. I mean, if you have an extreme short attention span, this is not for you. But if you want to use an activity that is an alternative to doom scrolling in your phone, you can have this coloring book. If you find it too long to finish a page, let's say you only like have half an hour or only an hour to make such an activity, my suggestion is you can paint like a quarter or like halfway and leave it and then come back to it when you have the time again. I also find some of the pages funny because some of the themes were recurring and somehow, I don't know. I still couldn't wrap it in my finger why the information about the artist is not shown in either the website or in the book. But anyway, I guess I won't buy a coloring book for quite some time and I have to finish this. You have the liberty if you want to finish this or not. I guess I don't want to color some of the pages like this Halloween theme page. No, I'm not a fan of Halloween. I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. And if you like this video and really appreciate my review, please click the like button. And if you're here in my channel for the first time, do subscribe and also click the bell button so you'd be notified of my future videos. Again, my name is Rema and thank you so much for joining me and bearing with me when I rant. And I hope to see you again in my next art space. Bye-bye! Kung kailan naman nagre-record ako, saka tumatahol yung aso. Gawin ko pa yung asusena. De, charot. Makabulin ako ng peta. Oh, may motor pang dadaan. Bayan! Yan na kayo. I bought this creative creative doodle coloring book. I bought this creative doodle coloring book for adults.